Good, happy Friday evening. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Friday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Friday evening, so let's begin. First up, Senate may push final Trump trial vote to next week. Let's take a listen to that video from WHDH 7 News, Dan Housley. Dan Housley is live in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol building.
The trial could be coming to an end. It's decision day for Congress as to whether or not witnesses will testify in the trial. Without new testimony, the impeachment trial could end soon. Dan Housley live in Washington, D.C. to explain the different scenarios to us. Dan?
Well, the question of witnesses is pretty much settled. It's all over but the shouting, or the debating, essentially. And then it's a question of when the president gets acquitted. Not if, but when. With the House managers' push for witnesses apparently doomed, dire predictions from Democratic leadership.
This country is headed towards the greatest cover-up since Watergate.
Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski delivering the final nail when she announced she'll vote against witnesses, citing the partisan nature of the impeachment, writing, "I've come to the conclusion that there will be no fair trial in the Senate. I don't believe the continuation of this process will change anything. It is sad for me to admit that, as an institution, the Congress has failed." Senator Murkowski joined Senator Lamar Alexander, who'd already said he would also vote no, because he thought what the president did was inappropriate, but not impeachable.
Very disappointing, but he's under enormous pressure from Mitch McConnell, from Donald Trump, from the Republican base in America to not have witnesses. So ultimately, it's not surprising.
The move away from witnesses and evidence coming as a New York Times reports President Trump discussed with former National Security Advisor John Bolton how to get Ukraine to investigate the Bidens as far back as last May. President Trump has denied the story. Republican Senators Mitt Romney and Susan Collins both said they would vote for witnesses, but it would not be enough to overcome their party's majority. Both sides going on with the debate, even though the results appear a foregone conclusion.
A trial requires witnesses. A trial requires documents. This is the American way, and this is the American story.
There's no need for that, because these articles of impeachment on their face are defective.
The path soon to be cleared for a vote against removing the president.
I think we are likely to move on Saturday to final judgment, at the end of which the president will be acquitted.
Democrats predicting it will be a hollow victory.
An acquittal on an incomplete record after a trial lacking witnesses and evidence will be no exoneration. It will be no vindication, not for the president, not for this chamber, and not for the American people.
Former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly weighing in on a trial without witnesses, saying it would be a job only half done. As far as an acquittal vote, this morning there was talk of getting that done late into the night tonight, but now there's talk of that being delayed so that every senator can have his or her say, and that could possibly go through next Monday, the caucuses, next Tuesday, the State of the Union, and all the way into next Wednesday. We're live on Capitol Hill. Dan Housley, 7 News.
Dan, thank you. And we're keeping an eye on the Senate right now. Here's Adam Schiff. As soon as senators decide to vote on whether or not witnesses will testify, we, of course, will bring that to you. And stay with the news station for continuing coverage on the impeachment trial. Dan Housley will be staying in the nation's capital for the duration of this trial. You can catch his live reports right here on the news station.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And let's take a listen into the impeachment trial right now from ABC News Live.
Country. One of the things that's interesting watching the Senate in the gallery is I wonder how much all 100 of them do hang out together, as they have been forced to do in this trial. But we want to hear from one of them. Not too often, and maybe that'll put a little grease in the gears, although one is skeptical. I want to go to Senator Sherrod Brown, Democrat of Ohio, who hit the microphones a little while ago during this lull, this pause, while they try and figure out what comes next. Senator Brown of Ohio.
Well, I think Republicans' problem is they realize that 75% of the public thinks we ought to have witnesses. I'm not a lawyer, but I know enough to know what the public knows, and that is that you can't have a real trial without witnesses and testimony and evidence, and they know that the public won't. Republicans intuitively now understand that if they're answering their phones or looking at their mail, they understand the public thinks this is not a real trial if they don't have witnesses, like you do at every trial in Richland County, Ohio, or Toledo, or Cleveland.
So what's the next step here?
Okay, if you want to watch the rest of this impeachment trial ABC News special report, you can just go to the Riley King Network Facebook page and scroll to find it, or you can go to ABC News Live Facebook page and find it on there as well. Now let's get to some other news. Convicted tax invader Elaine Brown to be released early from prison. Judge reduced 35-year sentence to time served. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
His lawyers.
Shop Ashley Home Store Seabrook for the most comfortable sleep sets from Ashley Chime, Tempur-Pedic, Beauty Rest, and our exclusive Neuropedic Lift. Ashley Home Store Seabrook, Route 1, minutes off 95's Exit 1 on Lafayette Road, adjacent to Cardi's Furniture and Mattresses.
Sean, today's resentencing hearing came about because part of the law under which Elaine Brown was convicted was found unconstitutional. The judge who presided over today's hearing was the same one at the original trial, and he found that Elaine Brown was a changed woman. Now, Elaine Brown, as you mentioned, seen here in file video, was involved also in months-long standoff with law enforcement. She and her husband, Ed, along with supporters, kept federal marshals at bay, often threatening violence. For that and tax evasion, she was sentenced to 35 years in prison, basically a life sentence. And reducing that today to time served, the judge says it shows the strength of our system, that it can provide mercy as well as punishment. The judge finding that Brown, who is now 79 years old, had repented and rehabilitated during her 12 years in prison and no longer represented a threat to the public. Brown's daughter also spoke in court, telling the judge that Ed Brown manipulated her mother and that now she is no longer under his influence. She has once again become a loving person. Now, Elaine Brown will be released from prison on February 28th. She will then go to live with her son in Massachusetts. Part of her condition, she will be on probation. She is also not allowed to have any contact with Ed Brown, from whom she is seeking a divorce. Ed Brown is currently awaiting his resentencing hearing in prison. Reporting live in Concord, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Flu more dangerous than coronavirus in New Hampshire. Across U.S., officials say. Flu remains widespread in New Hampshire. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9.
Bernie Sanders is on our side and always has been, fighting to protect a woman's right to choose.
And health officials say at this point the flu appears to be more of a danger in the U.S. than the coronavirus. The flu remains widespread in New Hampshire, with the number of cases up nearly 3% from the previous week. 2 people have died from flu complications this season. 1 person in Strafford County, the other from Rockingham County.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Vehicle involved in Bow home invasion found, police say. No arrests made in case. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
More details now. Police in Bow say that the vehicle involved in a home invasion earlier this week has now been found. But police are yet to make any arrests in the case. Investigators say the homeowner was in a separate building on his property when he noticed a car in the driveway. When he walked into the house, he ran into 2 armed men. They got into a car where a 3rd man was waiting, and they took off.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. John Delaney drops out of race for president. Democrat exits race days before Iowa caucus. Major airlines suspend all flights between U.S., China, and deadly coronavirus. Let's take a listen to that video from WHDH 7 News Boston.
Still no changes at Logan Airport as coronavirus concerns continue. This flight landing at Logan today, the plane coming from Beijing. Now, Logan Airport has not started doing health screenings on passengers as of right now.
Health officials say there are almost 10,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus around the globe, and more than 200 people have died from it. Here's the very latest. 2 more airlines have announced they're suspending flights to and from China. American Airlines is canceling flights starting today through at least March. Delta cancellations will officially begin next Thursday. British Airlines announced similar cancellations earlier this week.
The U.S. citizens flown back from China are now being held in a mandatory 14-day quarantine. The CDC announcing the quarantine here for nearly 200 people. And it's the first time it's happened in more than 50 years.
And coronavirus concerns having an impact on Wall Street for sure. So let's look at the numbers. Right now, the Dow is down by 544 points and some change. And let's now go more to the next screen there. I understand that China is the 2nd largest economy in the world, as we all know. And there are fears that the virus could have an impact on the economy there. And there's more breaking news on the coronavirus concerns. Let's get out to 7 Steve Cooper. He's live at the airport for us with more information. Steve?
Right, chatting in between the business as usual here at Logan, and we are at Terminal E right now. We've just learned that the U.S. declares a public health emergency from the virus, so much so that the president is now barring entry of foreign nationals who pose a transmission risk. And again, all this coming, as you mentioned, with both American and Delta suspending flights to and from China today, while passengers arriving from China here at the airport tell us they're taking their own precautions to guard against the deadly virus.
It was an on-time arrival from Beijing to Boston for passengers on board this Hainan Airlines flight landing at Logan, where donning face masks is suddenly a common sight, with concerns over the deadly coronavirus escalating. Do you feel like people are panicking?
I don't think so. People are panicking in Wuhan, and that's the only region that where people are panicking.
No enhanced screenings yet for travelers arriving from China. Massport tells us they're waiting for word from the Centers for Disease Control. The travelers we talked to said no one's panicking in China, although the lines are long for everyone trying to get face masks.
You don't know whether you're carrying the virus, so you don't want to, give it to other people. So it's also protecting other people. So everybody's wearing masks.
Passengers from Beijing told us they had their temperatures taken on the flight, but nothing beyond that when they arrived at customs here at Logan. So when you landed, there was no checking you out?
No, but the customer, they asked us about where we come from, which city in China.
Customs and Border Protection agents are handing out travel health alert notices to all those arriving from China. For the moment, it's all about taking the proper precautions.
I'm gonna, keep wearing my masks, until maybe 2 weeks off, just as a precaution, as a precautionary measure, because, that's what I've been told by my company.
And again, those face masks are simply tough to come by at this point. In the meantime, we did reach out to the CDC about whether these enhanced screenings were going to happen anytime soon. We have not heard back from them at this point. We're live at Logan. Steve Cooper, 7 News.
And our coronavirus coverage continues throughout the evening. Coming up for you at 5 o'clock, first responders explaining how they deal with patients believed to have infectious diseases, including the coronavirus. And we're tracking the spread of the coronavirus and the effort to contain it. You can stay with the news station for our coverage as the story continues to develop.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Friday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you for this Friday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the red and went down. Your Nasdaq closed in the red and went down. S&P 500 closed in the red and went down. Gold closed in the green and went up. Oil closed in the red and went down. U.S. 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed flat. And VIX closed in the green and went up. Dow plummets 600 points in worst day since August as coronavirus fears grow. Stocks fell sharply on Friday, wiping out the Dow Jones Industrial Average gain for January as investors grew increasingly worried about the potential economic impact of China's fast-spreading coronavirus. Mom fails to produce missing Idaho kids before deadline. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Missing Idaho children last seen in September. Authorities told their mother she must bring them forward by Thursday, but she did not meet that deadline. Will Reeve here with the latest. Good morning, Will.
Yeah, good morning, George. The day ended as it started, like every day since September 23rd. No sign of Lori Vallow's kids. That court-ordered deadline defied, and it's unclear what happens now. This morning, the deadline for Idaho mother Lori Vallow to physically produce her children, 17-year-old Tylee Ryan and 7-year-old JJ, has come and gone, with no sign of the missing kids.
Lori's not going to make this easy. She's got an end game in her head. This is not a game, but obviously she thinks it is.
JJ's worried grandparents addressing the media after meeting with the FBI.
How do you not know where your child is, number one, so she says, and how do you not have them for 4 months?
Tylee and JJ haven't been seen since September. Their mother Lori skipping town with her husband Chad Daybell in November, one day after police performed a wellness check looking for the children. Vallow and Daybell turning up in Hawaii earlier this week. East Idaho News capturing Lori being served with a court order to bring her kids in front of authorities in Idaho.
Where are your kids? No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
Speaking to GMA on Thursday morning, deadline day, JJ's grandfather Larry Woodcock said Lori seemed to have changed over the last year.
Ever since she's been involved in this doomsday cult, that is not the same Lori that we knew for 13 years. And the last year has just been non-understandable.
Daybell has written books and given speeches about what he describes as 2 near-death experiences.
Particles of light were coming towards my body and latching onto me.
Last February, Lori's then-husband Charles Vallow filed for divorce. In court documents obtained by ABC News, Charles alleged that Lori had recently become infatuated and at times obsessive about near-death experiences and spiritual visions. In the document, he also said Lori claimed she was a god assigned to carry out Christ's second coming and would murder him if he got in the way of her mission. Vallow and Daybell have not been charged, and no arrest warrants have been issued for them in Hawaii. The children were not with Vallow or Daybell, and there's no evidence the kids were ever in Hawaii. Police say they believe the children's lives are in danger, but authorities would not tell ABC News what happens next, citing child privacy laws.
This is just so bizarre.
It is. It's just so sad.
Gonna keep going. We'll find out what happens.
Thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this Friday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all enjoyed watching, and I'll see you back here later on tomorrow for another newscast. And I'll have a news report in a little bit. Good night and bye, everyone.